Okay, Derbyites, now that the Oscar voting is over today, we have got to figure out what's going to be on that ballot when it pops up on nomination morning. And I'm Tom O'Neill, editor of Gold Derby, with our managing editor, Chris Beachum, and our senior editor, Marcus Dixon, and our senior editor, Daniel Montgomery. And I want to start by picking on Marcus. We have a theme. Our theme is defend your craziest Oscar prediction. So Marcus, coming right at you. Why have you fallen for this Golden Globe Aaron Tyler Johnson thing? You know better. He's not getting nominated.
Well, I'm a secret HFPA voter. I was one of the 90 that put him over the edge. Forgetting the fact that he was so good in the movie, Daniel, I guess we'll come to you for this, because over the past 40 years, every single winner at the Golden Globe in this category, Best Supporting Actor, has gone on to an Oscar nomination. That's a statistic that is very hard to ignore.
Yeah, the Golden Globes, it's 90 members of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. They don't necessarily reflect the tastes of the Oscars all the time. So as soon as Aaron Taylor Johnson happened, I thought, okay, that might be one of those kind of Golden Globe flukes. We're not going to see that happen again. And then I went through the list of Golden Globe winners for Best Supporting Actor, and I was looking, so okay, when was the last time there was a winner who didn't get nominated at the Golden Globes? And it was 1975 or 1976 it was, and it was kind of alarming. Ironically, even though I did write that article, I don't currently have him in my top 5.
Shame on you.
I don't know who to.
Smart boy, Daniel. Don't let Marcus wrong. Just stay out there with reality. Okay.
The BAFTA voters also picked Aaron Taylor Johnson, I might add.
But he's also a Brit, so that wasn't necessarily the biggest shocker. I can see where they would have gone with him, while other groups might not have. He could get in. It's not, but it's. Oh, I'm not.
They also picked that girl from I, Daniel Blake, and they picked Emily Blunt. So, all of them British. So that's
Chris, you don't have Aaron in your predictions, do you?
I don't, not right now. Let me get on that page here.
What's crazy? Sorry to interrupt, but we could also see Michael Shannon get in here.
Yes, I've got Michael Shannon on my list. I think that's possible.
Nocturnal could have 2, or Michael Shannon is more beloved than Aaron Taylor Johnson. The voters may not even know who this guy is. So Michael Shannon.
I don't know. Michael Shannon got nominated every single award last year and could not get in at the Oscars.
Oh, good point.
So in this case, this is a movie that they're probably going to be watching. 99 Homes last year, that Shannon was the only thing that was happening for 99 Homes. I'm not sure how many Academy members even bothered to put it in, but
I made it through 98 of those homes and then said I couldn't.
But Nocturnal Animals has been doing well enough across the board that I think they're popping that in. I think the bigger risk is actually maybe they split the vote. If some people prefer Shannon and some people prefer Aaron Taylor Johnson, neither of them gets in.
Oh, I like
Marcus,
that.
who is the one of the 5 that are in the top of our 5 prediction center? Who do you not have in place of him?
I took out Lucas Hedges. He's really young. They usually don't go for the young children. Of course there are exceptions, but even the boy from Room, Jacob Tremblay, he was absolutely fantastic.
Well, he's like 2 years old. I mean, Lucas Hedges is at least in college. I'm with you. I don't know that Lucas is safe, but he does have a SAG Award nomination, which is one of the most telling. And we know they love him. The 3 most beloved movies this year across all the guilds and all the other awards we've seen seem to be La La Land, Manchester, and Moonlight. So we know the Oscar voters are watching Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
There's my idea about Lucas Hedges. I think I have him in my 5th slot just because I feel like after the BAFTA snub and the Golden Globe snub, which was kind of surprising given how much those 2 groups liked Manchester overall. There are 2 possibilities. Either Lucas Hedges is Timothy Hutton and he gets in and maybe even is a threat to win. Which I'm not sure about that. Or he's Shailene Woodley. They love the movie, but like her and the Descendants, it just doesn't extend to her quite the same way. So, and she was also like around 20, I believe, when that came out. So, I can't decide. I mean, the BAFTA snub was significant. I think more significant even than the Globe snub. So we'll see. I have him in my number 5 slot.
Daniel, while we've got you on screen, let me attack you next. Since we're just blasting away here at Crazy Oscar Predictions, you've got Lion up for Best Song. Come on.
Well, you know, this is a category that it's hard for me to figure out what's going to happen. Apart from Moana, the Lin-Manuel Miranda song, and probably two La La Land,
Yeah.
pretty open to me. And then, you know, as soon as we saw Lion get in at DGA, and we've seen it overperform at these awards, at Guild Awards, at Golden Globes, at all these other events, it's already a likely nominee for Best Score. And then I see, oh, well, that's got Sia's name on it. Sia is, you know, has written, she can get in twice. She nominated the song from Zootopia also. And so, like, I don't know how, you know, if the Academy Music branch is going to be like, ooh, that's Sia, got to vote for her. But she does have that high enough profile, and she's popular and respected enough that I think she could get in for this film.
It's a catchy song. Chris, among Daniel's other peculiar or notable predictions, you share. Both of you guys have Florence Foster Higgins up for Best Picture. In your 10th slot, granted, but defend that.
There's nothing
comedy?
else. Well, yeah, it's a comedy. There's oftentimes that last slot or the couple of last slots will be genre related. Like there's no other film for a person that likes that type of movie. There's no other there's no other thing similar that's on the awards track. And I think Florence is going to do very well overall. I mean, Meryl and Hugh, potentially several tech categories like an art direction maybe, or I've got it in for score. That's your buddy Alexandra Desplat. So
it's winning makeup.
Might win makeup.
No,
Deadpool. But that's the only reason. I really don't think there's going to be 10. I think our friends Sasha Stone had an article this week about how somebody figured out mathematically the way the whole structure works. That is, I think, is almost just statistically impossible to have a 10th.
And we've had 8 the last couple of years, right?
Right. What I can't figure out is the 9 that you have at PGA other than Deadpool. I think most people have those as like in their top 9 in some order or another. I will be stunned if, I mean, all 9 really have staked their claim to their Best Picture slot. So I will be stunned at which one of those, if one of those falls out.
If we're down to 8.
What do you think is the most vulnerable of those 9?
I think Lion is vulnerable. I think, you know, we got to point out here that Lion is Harvey Weinstein's only really big pony in this race. And so we're all saying, as Marcus just did, that it's overperforming. Not overperforming if you really like the movie, and I like the movie, but it's a little character study movie. It's not the kind of big epic thing that they like. Florence Foster Higgins is a big production. It's got all that stuff going on. Lion is the journey of a little boy to find himself and his identity and his family.
It's so inspiring, though, and I think the DGA nomination is very telling. I think Lion's somewhere around 4 or 5 range.
Right.
I don't think it's vulnerable.
What do you think is vulnerable?
Wow. I mean, the problem is everything. I'm trying to get back to that page. Everything there really has some major thing that they could sink their teeth into. Like, I would say Hidden Figures might be vulnerable, but it's got the SAG Ensemble nomination. So I think the acting branch certainly loves it. And it's probably going to get into, I would think, maybe like a production design. It could possibly get in for score. That's Pharrell Williams. It could get in for song. So
supporting
that was perfect timing from them from the studio, because it opened last weekend while Oscar voters had their ballots and was #1. It beat out Rogue One and everything. So
I think and it pains me to say this because I love the film. I think the most vulnerable, and I have it in my 9th slot, is actually Fences. And I look at the way when trying to figure out what the strength is, I look at not only just what the guilds are doing, but I look at the other categories and I think what's least likely to show up everywhere else. And honestly, I think other than Denzel and Viola and maybe the screenplay, which I'm not even sure is a sure thing, it's not getting in anywhere else. So if
it doesn't have the widespread guild support, does it?
If we have 8 nominees instead of 9, I think Hidden Figures takes 8 and Fences is just missing out.
I agree. And
I do too. You've talked.
Let me ask all of you a question here, though. And there's a really good couple articles. Daniel did one this week, and Zach did one today. Is silence totally out?
No.
I say that because we feel like some of the groups, like Critics' Choice, we know they didn't see it in time. I don't think SAG nominating committee saw it in time. I really don't think the Globe, even if the Globe voters saw it, I don't know if they processed it in time. So I think it might be one of these hidden mysteries, like American Sniper a couple of years ago that broke late. We didn't have a feel for it because we didn't know what it was going to do at the Oscars.
That's the analogy in the forums. I love the discussion back there, and they're making the American Sniper analogy, and I think it's a good one. Chris, in your own predictions, you've got silence in for editing, for example, and we know that there's usually a marriage between Best Picture and Best Editing.
Well, and based on Zach's article today, I just moved Scorsese into the 5th slot for director.
I have him in there too, but not for picture, right?
No, not for picture at the moment, but I'm thinking of it because it might. I mean, look, he has an all-star team behind him. I mean, it could get. I mean, he got in for Cinematography Guild this week. That's the only guild it's gotten in for. But it's wonderful costuming. It's wonderful production design. I don't. It could be a 4 or 5 nominee kind of a movie. And Zach's article pointed out every single time Scorsese has been nominated at the Oscars for directing, he's also had a DGA nomination. So that's not a good sign. But the one time that he didn't have a DGA nomination and got into the Oscars was the one movie that compares the most to Silence, another religious epic, which was Last Temptation. So that
was also very controversial. People were really ticked off at Last Temptation because the serious Christians were offended by it. But so that may explain that. And if that explains that away, then let's say there, among the remaining examples you cite, there really is no other exception. Then we have to say, yeah, he's a contender. I think this could be like a David Lynch thing where he got nominated for director and the film did not. Mulholland Drive in that case. I think that how do they not nominate Scorsese, right? But I have him in my director's lineup too, and not in picture.
Mm-hmm. The tricky thing about Silence and the American Sniper analogy, I think it's good up to a point. But I remember asking myself this question. I looked back at American Sniper's award run. It did much better at the guilds than Silence has been doing. It got in, the editors nominated it, the art directors nominated it, the Directors Guild nominated Eastwood. So while it was late to the game, by this point it had caught up more than Silence has caught up at this point. So I don't know. I do think there's a chance. We have seen that. With Foxcatcher, that you can get nominated for director even with this expanded lineup of Best Picture not getting into Best Picture. So Scorsese could do it because he's so well respected. But it could be one of those. It could be a kind of weird, fluky kind of year where we see maybe a Scorsese nomination for director and then maybe 1 or 2 below the line. And
what both of you have for your 5th slot? Because I know Garth Davis got that slot at the DGA, but here's the reason I don't buy that for the Oscars. DGA is almost all TV directors, and Garth Davis is a TV director. This is his first feature film. He's not an American TV director, but they know him from Top of the Lake, and they know him from his Australian project. So I tend to think this is not going to translate over to the Oscars. I might be wrong. So who do you have in your 5th slot if you don't have Garth Davis or Scorsese?
I put Garth Davis in there yesterday after DGA, and I haven't. You guys have not convinced me that Scorsese will get that 5th slot. So at this time, I'm going to keep him in there unless something crazy happens.
The other 4 are in, though, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
pretty sure.
And let's keep in mind that Scorsese's had a really troubled past with the Academy because he's a New Yorker, is how a lot of awardologists think of it. Is, why did it take up till The Departed for him to get nominated? Well, to win, and it may very well simply be that this New York LA thing, and that may hurt him again if that's a factor, because he's not here.
I compare Gareth Davis to Lenny Abrahamson for Room. He directed a child that had never acted before and made him, we all know that when a child looks good on camera, it's not necessarily because of the child, it's because of the director and his skill and his ability. And what he did with his little boy in Lion is absolutely incredible. And then, Dev Patel, this is the best performance Dev Patel has ever given. And someone in our forum said this is a world that Garth Davis created that we really haven't seen on film before. And that's maybe why he got in at DGA, not necessarily the TV angle, but the fact that he's doing something different and bringing a new light to something that we've really never noticed.
The 5 DGA lineup rarely matches the Oscar lineup.
Right, it doesn't.
I think it has once or twice in the last few years. I have Davis in there by default. If it's not Davis, I don't actually think it will be Scorsese personally. I think the other two likeliest possibilities are, given how the run up to this point, how their films have done, is David Mackenzie for Hell or High Water. He could be that kind of relative unknown whose film is very popular, kind of like a Morton Tildum type, or Tom Ford for Nocturnal Animals. That's a very directory kind of movie. And it's been overperforming everywhere he got in it at BAFTA. So I think I put those two slightly ahead of Scorsese.
Okay, and last point, let's go to Marcus. Here, I've got to jump off for a quick meeting with our tech friends at PMC, and then we can come back and keep doing a few more of these. But Marcus, you've got Nocturnal Animals for Best Picture, which I think is a great prediction, and I love that film. It's my favorite Focus Features contender this year, since loving Tank. Or not Tank, but it's just not, it's underperforming, as we like to say, to be political here. But what's your thinking there? It's kind of a horror slasher movie. They don't normally go for it, right?
Right, and it's in my 10th slot, which is kind of, as Chris was mentioning, we're not probably going to see 10 nominations. But it has the same amount of guild support that Hidden Figures does, that Hell or High Water does. I'm talking about 6 nominations from the various guilds. The only movies to get 7 or more from the guilds are Moonlight, Lion, Manchester, Arrival, and La La Land. So it's in that group of the most nominated films of the year. So I think you guys are crazy for not putting it in your predictions.
This is why I love our slugfests, everybody watching this. And that was great analysis, Marcus. Brilliant. And and you just pulled that out of air. You didn't know I was going to nail you on this question. That's great awards thinking. You may be wrong, but if you're wrong, you can really back it up. Also, it's a movie about a script. It's a movie about writing, and it's got brilliant, or it's a book. What is Jake Gyllenhaal writing there? Is it a book or a script?
It's a novel.
It's a novel, that's right. So take all that back that I just said. The point being is that great, well argued. Let's wrap up here and go back and now that we've talked ourselves in and out of each other's predictions, let's go change our predictions and regroup. Thanks.